Welcome to the Trend Detection Podcast, powered by Siemens. And now your host, Niall Sullivan.
So hello and welcome to this latest episode of the Trend Detection Podcast. I'm really pleased to say I've got my colleague, Richard Eller, all the way in Australia, with me today once again, because I say once again because for those who listen to the podcast regularly will know that we've chatted before on the topic of mining, which is very interesting, particularly interesting in Senseye Predictive Maintenance because we have a lot of customers in that area. So we want to share a lot of insights from that area, I guess, with our audience. So I'll just let Richard introduce himself to the audience first of all, then we'll dive into today's topic. So over to you, Richard.
No, thank you, Niall. It's great to come back and get invited again to have a chat about, what's unique and specific about Australia and the challenges here that we face. Every region has its own challenges, and I think it's very, very important to focus on those regions and their challenges rather than just a generic approach. And so thank you for the opportunity here. This is very much appreciated. Just a little bit about myself, really focused on value add through all digitalization or digital tools. And that's my main role here with Siemens in Australia. So many fancy titles, but I like to call myself quite simply a digital transformation consultant. And that's essentially what my role is at the moment. I sit down with customers, look at what their challenges are, find the tools it's going to bring them the most value relative to where they are on their journey. And I'm quite excited to chat about the topic today with regards to challenges in mining. And thank you, Noel.
Yeah, that was interesting. So I remember when I published the first episode, I did have I looked on your LinkedIn. I was thinking, I'm not sure that's your job title. So I like it. It's a bit fluid, isn't it, by the sound of it? So digital transformation consultant. That's good.
Actually, you say that. I actually haven't updated my LinkedIn profile for some time. Okay. I think I might still be a mobile mining team leader on there, which would be maybe 8 years old. So maybe I should take some of my own medicine and update my LinkedIn profile. But that's essentially my role.
No, excellent. And thanks for coming on again. So today we're talking about the topic of keeping mines moving with predictive maintenance. That's what I've titled it. I'll give a bit of background, I guess, to the audience and yourself to why I'm sort of focusing on that. It's something that sort of recurred. It's a recurring theme I've heard, talking to different customers in mining, and I also speak to Gartner, sort of the consultancy, on a regular basis, and we're sort of brainstorming some ideas around topics which might appeal to mining, and this just kept coming up time and time again about the problems, let's say, or not more than problems, I guess you're going to explain, Richard, about mining stopping and the stop in production. So maybe we could start there and just sort of lay the groundwork, I guess, and talk about what the impact of a mine stopping is for people who might not know. Because, again, the people who listen to this podcast might not be in mining, but I'm sure they can take a lot of learnings from that industry and the challenges you face. So maybe, so let's start there, if that's okay.
Yeah, look, I mean, the impact on mining specifically is quite significant because it's quite a supply chain. When we talk about mining, we're not just talking about coal or iron ore or gold. We've got underground mining, we've got open pit mining, we've got equipment that uses kind of a shovel, a haul truck combination. We've got drag lines. And so there's a massive array of equipment out there with regards to mining. And so, again, each sector of mining, be it underground, coal, or gold, or above ground, comes with a unique set of challenges. But, the impact of not focusing on maintenance or preventative maintenance or predictive maintenance is quite significant. And Most mature mines have got a pretty well structured plan around what they're doing. And, but some of the impacts obviously on production. So, and production is becoming very much a supply chain issue. We are so interwoven with iron ore prices, and basically this was a big thing during COVID, and some mines were shutting down. But essentially, production is the most obvious impact when it comes to predictive maintenance and what we can do in that space. But it's not just that; it's much bigger. When we talk about the impact, it goes as far as environmental, because you're not just thinking of getting the dirt out of the ground and get it somewhere else. You've got to do it safely. You want your workers to go home. You want to look after the environment and basically leave the land better. This is what a lot of our minds are focused on. They want to try and rehabilitate the land better than what they actually started digging on. And so, and a lot of challenges in this space too is around safety. And you can try and do as much as you can with regards to safety, but you have to realize that this is a very risky environment. People are going out and doing very risky things, and so we have to use new technologies to try and bring people away from those risky coalface environments. And so technology here is also a great help.
Yeah, and there was a point you mentioned that some don't focus on. I think you're saying preventative maintenance. Is there a reason for that? Maybe that it's not a top priority. Was it just because there's so many other priorities as well? It's hard to focus in that area.
Yes. Look, when it comes to preventative maintenance, I think it's very important to clarify the difference between preventive, predictive, prescriptive. They've got all these words. But when it comes to predictive maintenance, to be really honest with you, the traditional tools in predictive maintenance are all around condition monitoring. And maybe we can flush this out a little bit later as to what the challenges are with these kind of traditional condition monitoring, predictive basically tools that people try to put in place. But when it comes to, adopting new technologies and new ways of doing it, like what Senseye has available, really does assist and basically reduce the impact of the problem around resourcing and everything like that. I know the mines are focused on predictive. There's no doubt about it. I'd say all of our customers, they have very mature in mining. They would have a very mature remote monitoring, the SCADA package, and visibility into what's going on. But it stops there. It's too big to get people to try and address everything. You need to get, you need to use technology to basically start assisting and find those areas of concern before they actually occur.
That's a good question, because, or maybe something to clarify your opinion on this, Richard. Why mining in particular? You mentioned that word mature, and it's a word we use within Senseye quite often about sort of culturally mature, data mature, or technology mature. Is there a reason why mining sort of a step ahead maybe of other industries in that regard?
I think the short answer is because they've had to. I think a necessity has driven the means here. I have been basically in mining here in Australia for 18 years, and sometimes I just look back and go, how did we get here? When we look at the type of infrastructure, we look at the machines that are being built today to achieve these goals. And I'm maybe a reflective person, but I really do like to think back as to how we got here. and all of these machines started very small, and they basically just got scaled up and scaled up from year to year. And the same thing has happened with the people. These are very remote communities, and and because of the need for Australian coal specifically, there has been great opportunity there. So this is where you will see the big mining companies. They've been driven by this need to improve, innovate, adopt, and be bold. And you look at some of these companies, and they are achieving some great things. You look at a stacker reclaimer that they use on ports, and that's got a rotating bucket on it, and just one bucket will fit a size D10 Caterpillar in it. It's massive as to what these guys have actually achieved over evolution. The thing that has really come to the fore in the last couple of years is the software. All right, there's been this great evolution in hardware. We've made it bigger and better and faster, and the technology has gotten smaller with regards to footprint size, and we've really done massive things in the hardware space. But now software is really coming into its own with regards to how we can assist and be smarter with this hardware, and especially for this case specifically, is how we can actually use software in a different way to predict and find anomalies in an industry where we would normally rely on somebody with 15 years of experience. Just a little tip is, if you want to get anything done on a mine site, always look for the guy that's been there for some time, and he knows all the ins and outs, and he just walks into a work area and he could tell you what's wrong just by the sound of the place. And it's these technologies that are now being achieved in software with the assistance of application sharing. That's quite exciting.
And actually, I know obviously my side is software, but the hardware side is interesting. So I guess the adoption of the software has probably been facilitated somewhat by the development of hardware that's, from my point of view, what I'd imagine has been developed to withstand such harsh environments, I guess. And that's probably helped the acceleration of other technology, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's correct. So I've been fortunate enough to be involved in a couple of R&D projects with, say, electric haul trucks. And essentially, we took technology from mobility in our rail industry, which is also quite rugged. And we actually adopted that technology for electric haul truck shovels and drag lines, completely electric. And the environment for the operating environment for mining is quite unique. It's it's nearly military grade with regards to the type of equipment that you need to be using in those environments. Off the shelf products, usually struggle in harsh environments. They usually need to supplement the standard products with better IP rating or better coating.
No, exactly. And I think we mentioned technology a few times, and obviously that's the core of what we're talking about today. So in terms of how technology can keep mines moving, so overcome some of those challenges you mentioned before, maybe you could dive into that, Richard, in a bit more detail.
Yeah, and so look, when it comes to mining, I must just say this: mines are very risk averse when it comes to change. They very much are focused on doing tomorrow what they did yesterday because it worked and is safe and secure. So whenever there's a pivot or fork in the road with the technology, most mining companies will go with a safer option. And that is why they are so strong, and basically the solutions are so secure, is because basically downtime is something that has to be avoided, and everything has to be done to avoid that. So with regards to new technologies, as to what we can actually do in this space, I think there are three things that mines are focused on, and maybe I might just add something on that we really are working with the mines on. But the most basic thing that all mines have is a very comprehensive mining maintenance program. All of that is based on OEM recommendations. Grease this every 20,000 hours, strip this every 20. They definitely work around those to make sure that the warranties are still kept and everything like that. So and that I think the mine sites are doing very well at. But it is taking up a large part because there's quite a bit of equipment to maintain. There is quite a push over the last 4 years to move in this preventative maintenance space. But I think, as I've said a couple of times, I think preventative maintenance with condition monitoring has matured. There is the only way you can get preventative basically use condition monitoring for preventative maintenance is to have an application expert for every application, and that's not feasible, and it's just not practical. So this is what is now becoming what we call big data, and using predictive maintenance and data-driven maintenance. This is what is now starting to be adopted. And basically, one of the examples that I have that we have with one of the mine sites here in Australia that has Senseye actually installed is it's basically on a haul truck. You every 500 hours, so basically once a month, you actually replace the air filters on the haul truck, regardless. All right, they take them out. It's just swap and go, regardless of their condition. Now, every mine is different. Summer, winter is different, depending on how deep your pit is. Depends on the dust. So one of the things that we've actually implemented that's working actually quite well is we are now only changing the filters based on the forecasting of the data. So we actually monitor the air pressure, and basically we forecast that out, which gives us 3 weeks window between where it is and where it's forecast to actually hit the limit of the truck shutting itself down. And that gives and that's basically increasing the life of the filters by nearly 3.5 weeks so far, just on the ones that we have run. So and this is moving now to a data-driven maintenance. This is an example of what Senseye can do. It's not just about the predictive side, but it's also about getting smarter about your maintenance. And the main issue there around maintenance, and the biggest issue in mining, is resourcing. And so if you can do anything to reduce the resourcing load, you're going to get better outcomes.
And just to pick up on, I guess, one thing you mentioned there, Richard, which was you mentioned about the talent shortage in the industry, or your sort of resources, or it's about making better use of resources. But I guess part of that is, I know in manufacturing it's certainly a big issue with talent shortage. Is it the same in mining as well? Is that something that's a challenge?
Yeah, it certainly is. I think I said it in the previous the catch up that we had. When it comes to, firstly, working in mining is not for everybody. All right, these mine sites are located in very remote places on average, you're doing 12-hour days. There's many different shifts that these people try and work on. But look, at the end of the day, you're working 12-hour days, you're working 12-hour nights, you're flying in and out. It's very disruptive. So it's not an easy job. So firstly, that's the first challenge, getting the people out into these remote areas. Because, as I said before, Australia has maybe 28 million people, and 85% of those people live on the coast. And 90% of mines are not on the coastline. They're out in the middle of nowhere. So, it's not that abnormal for people to fly in, fly out on a Monday to 4,000 kilometers, 3,000 kilometers, and then fly back on Friday because of the location. So, but actually, with this this presentation coming up, I thought I'd just have a check and just sanity check what everybody says. We have a skill shortage in Australia. Everybody says that, but I actually went onto the website where for the Minerals Council of Australia. And they have basically documented that by the end of this year, we have 40,000 people short of work in that in the Minerals Council. So that's mainly around mining. And so there is this big shortage that we have, and then you've got the overall shortage, and then you really start drilling it down into electrical, electronics, kind of technician, engineering, and it really starts getting tough to hold on to people in these areas. And because there's so many opportunities available, it's natural for people to follow those opportunities. So to hold on to people is very challenging. And I see it all of the time where our customers are just constantly stuck in a training and development cycle with their staff. And it's a catch-22 because they have to do it to stay on top of the technologies, but then they get frustrated when people move on. But this is just the natural cycle of things because of the working environment in Australia, the fly in, fly out, and the opportunities. You've got this mix of challenges that make it quite tough to work in and to hold on to people.
Yeah, I can still hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Yeah. And basically, it comes down to also what makes it worse is we've got an aging workforce. I'm one of them, so I don't think it's a problem. Okay, and a lack of skilled workers. And when I say skilled workers, I'm talking about unique skills. We're not talking about your average skills. When it comes to technology, I think I said this in the previous podcast, is technology is moving faster than what we can train and adopt. And so we really need to change on the tools available to the engineers out in the field. We have to give them something else. We can't just expect them to do some training and then go and execute. It's now on the fly learning, and this is where Senseye contributes quite well. Is it will highlight something that maybe you didn't notice and might just confirm what you were thinking, or you sanity check it the other way. And then, as I say, competition is good. Nobody's going to complain about getting better pay in different in other areas. But, this is the challenges around mining quite specifically.
Please like and subscribe on all major podcast channels and find out more about Senseye Predictive Maintenance at Siemens.com.